So if you'd like to follow along with me this morning, our scripture reading is from James 3, verses 1 through 12. Is it in the bulletin?
Yes.
And this translation is from the Message. Don't be in any rush to become a teacher, my friends. Teaching is highly responsible work. Teachers are held to the strictest standards, and none of us is perfectly qualified. We get it wrong nearly every time we open our mouths. If you could find someone whose speech was perfectly true, you'd have a perfect person in perfect control of life. A bit in the mouth of a horse controls the whole horse. A small rudder on a huge ship in the hands of a skilled captain sets a course in the face of the strongest winds. A word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy you. It only takes a spark, remember, to set off a forest fire. A careless or wrongly placed word out of your mouth can do that. By our speech, we can ruin the world, turn harmony to chaos, throw mud on a reputation, send the whole world up in smoke, and go up in smoke with it. Smoke right from the pit of hell. This is scary. You can tame a tiger, but you can't tame a tongue. It's never been done. The tongue runs wild, a wanton killer. With our tongues, we bless God our Father. With the same tongues, we curse the very men and women He made in His image. Curses and blessings out of the same mouth. My friends, this can't go on. A spring doesn't gush fresh water one day and brackish the next, does it? Apple trees don't bear strawberries, do they? Raspberry bushes don't bear apples, do they? You're not going to dip into a polluted mud hole and get a cup of clear, cool water, are you? So it is written in the Holy Bible. May we be blessed to find meaning and understanding in these words. So it's often said that we teach what we need to learn. Here's hoping I learned something today. If not today, then hopefully tomorrow. Either way, I remain doggedly hopeful that Providence will guide us all to a better understanding of who and what we are. I think that's a little prayer, so I'm there. Words have always been important to me. My mom told me that when I was in kindergarten, I read my first primer book all the way through the first day I got it. And I remember being in Sunday school when I was about 6 or 7 years old and surprised myself and my Sunday school teacher by being able to sound out and read the word Czechoslovakia the first time I saw it. What impressed me the most about learning words during my childhood, that was reinforced by my mom and my teachers, was that some words are bad and we shouldn't say them. And those words included our standard 4-letter profanities, including damn and hell. The nuns at the Catholic school I attended also stressed to us that we were never to use God's name in vain. Now, I always struggled to figure out exactly what that meant, but I did know that saying God damn was a no. Along with learning which words were impolitic as a kid, I was also taught to respect my parents, my teachers, and just elders in general. And during the days when parents and teachers got a pass on corporal punishment, talking back to either of them could easily result in a conversation with a belt, a strap, or the dreaded pointer stick that the nuns favored. And none of that was appealing to me. Despite the fact that my mom could and often did speak like the proverbial sailor, to this day, at the age of 89, she has never heard me utter the word damn or any other word that might be considered profane in her presence. Now, mind you, I am in no way a prude, but I was taught to respect my parents, and that primarily meant the words and speech that I used with them. I grew up in a neighborhood where many people literally used the swear word in every sentence they spoke, thinking nothing of the environment or circumstance in which they found themselves. They just let it rip all the time. But for me, I just never liked the sound of cussing, especially when it was directed at someone and used as a way to demean them. Words used that way always sound harsh to me. Now, I'm no saint, however, and must admit that I have on a couple of occasions judiciously used a word or two that I really am loath to use. And I say judiciously because when I use the words, it was to make a point, and because the object of those words had never heard me speak like that, I got their attention, and they got my point. And by the way, there's a name for that. It's called dysphomistic swearing, which is meant to make a point provocatively. Today I find myself in a dilemma. I fear the times, attitudes, public behavior, and pop culture have changed so much that I run the risk of being irrelevant in certain circles with my prickly posture on profanity. Now consider this. Back in 1980, when Frankie Smith and I wrote the song Double Dutch Bus, we thought we were being coy and a little bit provocative by writing the following lines. Let me tell you what I say when I forgot my words, right? Oh, yeah. Let me tell you what I say when I'm dealing with a funky sidewalk. I say, sugar. Remember that? Anyway, with today's pop music, that line is as benign as a teaspoon of sugar. I'm convinced that with today's pop lyrics, the genie is out of the bottle and there's no putting it back. It's almost gotten to the point that risque lyrics are a requisite for hit songs. Record companies still make clean tracks available, but most die-hard consumers prefer the original versions and can easily figure out the censored words which they sing robustly. Right, George? Here's one dilemma. Do I change or go along with the flow, or do I stay in my lane with the possible risk of being run off the road? Dr. Benjamin K. Bergen, author of What the F? What Swearing Reveals About Our Language, notes the following. In social settings, swearing can serve as a connector. Every generation has its own slang, which includes profanity. When you use that language, it's almost like a password that gives you access to people hip to it, Dr. Bergen says. This can work even if you avoid swearing. As Dr. Bergen explained, people with religious beliefs often avoid swearing and may use other phrases like shut the door to replace the profanity. Guilty as charged. This signals who you are socially, Bergen says. And I'll be sharing some more of Dr. Bergen's insights in a bit. The problem with language and word usage doesn't stop there for me, however. It goes beyond song lyrics. What's more disturbing to me is the facility with which certain words roll off the tongues of people in the public sphere and the seeming normalization of shaming and demeaning behavior. Frankly, I'm rather used to people using impolite language all the time, but it still stings when the intention is harmful. Now, interestingly, some people think that the reason I eschew profanity is because I'm a minister, and often people actually apologize to me for that reason when using bad words around me. As a minister, I feel just the opposite. I think people and ministers should, for the sake of clarity and authenticity, be free to speak their minds, no matter how crude they may sound, especially if the intent is to try to understand. Doesn't mean I have to like it, and though I certainly have no desire to censor anyone, it costs me nothing, as Lance frequently reminds us, to stand under someone and affirm them as a human being. But I'm still deeply concerned about civility and common politeness in our society. Despite my misgivings about cursing, there is a case to be made for it. And I found it in a New York Times article entitled The Case for Cursing by Kristen Wong. And this was written in July of 2017. Kristen writes this. You know when you stub your toe and involuntarily utter an expletive? You probably didn't give it much thought, but you might have been onto something. A study co-authored by Richard Stevens, a senior lecturer in psychology at Keele University, found that swearing can increase your ability to withstand pain. So when you stub your toe and howl an expletive, it might help you to tolerate pain better. For pain relief, swearing seems to trigger the natural fight or flight stress response, as well as increased adrenaline and heart pumping, Dr. Stevens says. This leads to stress-induced analgesia, being more tolerant of pain. Now, as children, we're taught that cursing, even when we're in pain, is inappropriate, betrays a limited vocabulary, or is somehow low class in that ambiguous way many cultural lessons suggest. But profanity serves as a physiological, emotional, and social purpose, and it's effective only because it's inappropriate. Now, the paradox is that it's the very act of suppression of the language that creates those same taboos for the next generation. The reason that a child thinks the F word is a bad word is that growing up, he or she was told that it was bad. So profanity is a cultural construct that perpetuates itself through time, said Dr. Bergen. It's an affliction of its own creation. He goes on to say, swearing and cursing are often used interchangeably, but there's a subtle difference in their origins. A curse implies damning or punishing someone, while a swear word suggests blasphemy, invoking a deity to empower your words. Now, for the sake of modern discussion, both words are defined as profanity, vulgar, socially unacceptable language you don't use in polite conversation. Though swearing is mostly harmless, Dr. Bergen wrote in his book, slurs are the exception. There are clear benefits to using profanity, but when profanity targets demographic groups, it can also foster prejudices. The paradox is that profane words are powerful only because we make them powerful. Without their being censored, all of the words we designate by a first letter and word would just be average terms. Thus we come to my second dilemma, the N-word, which to my mind is a word like abortion and capital punishment that is symptomatic of our collective schizophrenia. Think about that for a second. What do I and what do we do about the N-word? I don't know how any of you feel about that word. I don't know if you use it. I don't know how you react to it when you hear a person of color use it, or what goes on in your mind when a non-person of color uses it. All I know is the meaning we give to words is a social construct. I think that in any situation, our intentions are paramount. And in any situation, I believe we should use our words with care. Now, despite calls to ban its use, it seems the N-word isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And one reason is that the African community has embraced it. Through music, especially, and pop culture, the word has been extended to the whole world. What are we going to do with it? I don't know. Should people who buy and listen to songs with the N-word not be allowed to say or sing it? The African community has learned to use the word in fun and novel ways, and we also use it to sting. Context is everything. As our scripture reading says, a word out of your mouth may seem of no account, but it can accomplish nearly anything or destroy it. It only takes a spark, remember, to set off a forest fire. A careless or wrongly placed word out of your mouth can do that. By our speech, we can ruin the world, turn harmony to chaos, throw mud on a reputation, send the whole world up in smoke, and go up in smoke with it. Smoke right from the pit of hell. So consider this. Whose words do we speak? Our words or God's words? Where is this conversation, this corporate conversation going? And who are we talking to? Who are we really talking to? Words evolve and people evolve. Who will we be? What will we be? Within the African American community, the N-word is frequently used with affection. So, if the truth be told, you are all my niggas. May the words of my mouth, and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to all my brothers and sisters. Amen. So let us